Welcome to Learning with Lisa, Student Success Beyond Expectations podcast with Lisa Navarra, award-winning educator, consultant, behavior specialist, author, and parent.
Welcome to Student Success Beyond Expectations. Do you have students that are inattentive, maybe distractible, and maybe full of energy, but you still need to meet your curriculum standards? You still need to gain their attention. And if only they can hold their attention long enough for you to be able to teach the major concepts that you have prepared so hard for. Well, we may have discovered something here. And I'm with Dr. Julian Reed, and he is the creator of Walkabouts. Walkabouts is a very interesting program that incorporates lessons that are designed to last about 7 to 10 minutes. And what it is that there's an avatar that involves the students and children at home with the learning process. So he's here to tell you about why this all started, what it really does. And you know what I really like about it is that he's got research that shows that even when the activity is done and the lesson is over, some of those skills and the ability to maintain attention has proven to be longer, which means that they are generalizing some of the skills that they are looking to build. So I really thought that you would enjoy listening and learning a bit more about Walkabouts. So welcome, Dr. Reed.
Thank you, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
So tell us a bit about Walkabouts.
Well, Walkabouts is a platform, as like you said, uses movement to teach core standards in math, language arts, literacy, social studies, and science, the things teachers have to teach already, but we do it with movement. Therefore, a teacher can teach what they're already teaching, but engaging the kids in movement. And movement is something that most elementary age kids really like to do. So it's a great way to get kids up and moving, that not only they're learning, they're improving their health, they're improving their cognition, and they're improving their focus.
Right. So tell us about the format. What does it look like in the classroom?
Yeah, so it's real simple. If you can check your email, you can log into our platform. No software to download. It's all in the cloud. It was designed for full class movement. Therefore, if you have a smart board or Promethean board or just projector, you log in and it asks you, hey, what grade are you teaching? What content are you teaching? What standard are you teaching? And then it brings up a walkabout. And our walkabouts, we have two characters. We have a boy character named Jax. We have a girl character named Gia. And then we have a city environment and then a park environment. And depending on what the teacher wants to teach at that particular time, will determine where the lesson is. It changes every time you play it. And so the avatar takes these kids, as you mentioned, on these 7 to 10 minute adventures, and based on the movement, tells the teacher if they're getting the concepts or not. So, for example, we have a lesson on long and short vowel sounds. And here we show a word and we say the word and we ask the kids to reach up for a long vowel sound and squat down low for a short vowel sound. Well, right away, we're trying to put that content into a context, right? Long, we're reaching up. Short, we're squatting down. So the kids follow our avatar, do those movements, and right away you have a formative assessment for that teacher to better understand who's getting the concept and who's not getting the concept. And what is unique, you can go play that same walkabout again and the words change. Just like if you had a math walkabout, the numbers would change. So it's truly a dynamic platform. As you already mentioned, it's research-based, evidence-based, and movement is like what kids want to do, typically elementary age kids. So we thought, hey, we need to find a way to marry this movement with this core curricula so no instruction time is lost.
So I understand what you mean about the full class environment. I have a couple of questions in regards to that. Is it possible to have the program on computers just for a small group?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have some people use it as a station, as a computer, headphones, and they're doing it that way. It works on all devices. So it can be on an iPad, can be on an iPhone, can be on Android. So we designed it initially for, for all class, but we also knew, as I mentioned early on in our pre-conversation, my wife's a classroom teacher. She has stations in her classroom where there's headphones, and so kids can go over there and do the walkabouts as well. Or if you even had a computer room, if you will, and people can log in, those kids can log into their own accounts and do that individually. They also get access at home. And so since kids often have devices at home, or their parents do, they can just do it on their computer or on their tablet.
And what do you think the teacher's role should be? Let's say during a full class instruction on this.
Yeah, so it varies. Some teachers actually do the movements with their kids because they want to get some of that activity. But oftentimes we have a simple assessment built in where teachers are really just trying to get an idea of who gets this concept, who doesn't, and then can use it also as review. So some teachers we have found use it to introduce a concept. Some teachers use it at the end of maybe teaching a different modality. And then some use it, in the middle, depending on their ability, their cognitive ability of their students. We designed it in a way where you can use it for a variety of different methods, whether it's review or introduction. We have a lot of experts who write the pedagogy for us. I'm in charge of the movements, but we have experts who've written books in math and language arts to make sure we're presenting this in a sound way and we're following a sound progression. So often teachers are either participating or really kind of watching to see who's getting the concepts and who's not. And that way they can follow up with those particular children, either in the classroom or at home. They can send a message through our system. Hey, mom and dad, Julian needs some help with long and short vowel sounds. Why don't you play this walkabout with him tonight?
I'm wondering if within your team of experts, if you have a special educator or related service providers.
Okay, that's a great question. So initially, we thought about special education, and it is used in a lot of classes we found, but obviously there's a lot of requirements related to ADA, so we're not necessarily a certified provider to meet those standards. However, we have found a lot of the special ed teachers have reached out to us and say, hey, we use this and our kids love it.
Tell me about these simple assessments. What do they look like? What do they entail?
Yeah, so the assessments are really, you have your kid, you have your list of names, and we have two options with our assessments. It's really the same assessment, but two different ways to do it. One way is a split screen where you're playing the walkabout on the board, but you are attached to your computer. And part of that is we know some principals don't want their teachers to have their desktop always projecting just in case something sensitive comes across. So in this case, the assessment is on the computer, but the Promethean board is playing the actual walkabout because you've set up your split screen option in your settings. And it's really just a list. You got your kids' names, and we have Met Standard, Needs Assistant, Comments. And so therefore it's a quick checklist. We're not trying to get too complex because it's 7 to 10 minutes, but within that assessment, there's also a box email parents. So you can click, hey, needs help, type in a few notes, and that will then go home to the guardian or mom or dad. The other option is that same assessment, but we have an option where you send link to email, and that same assessment then comes up on your phone or a tablet and enables you to walk around the room, and you can do it that way. So we
Wow.
just wanted to provide freedom. It's the same assessment, but some teachers want to be mobile as the
Yeah.
kids are doing the activity, and others just kind of stay at their desk with their desktop computer and do it that way.
Sounds very comprehensive and user friendly too.
Yeah, that was one of our most important things as my wife being a teacher. We know the continuum of technology levels varies among teachers.
It
So
does vary.
for us was, hey, if you already, I don't think you can teach in the public school system or really anywhere without an email these days. So that was our test. If you can check your email, you can log in and play a walkabout.
And I have some thoughts too, Dr. Reed. We have children, not only the adults have varying abilities, right? But obviously the kids do too. So when you're in the full group, I would suggest that even the educators in their own classrooms, if there are some students who maybe aren't as reacting as quickly, but they might know the information, they just need a little more processing time, or they just get so nervous because so many children, they compare themselves to others, so they might be thinking that's the athlete, that's the one, that kid always gets it right, and so much thinking about everyone else rather than him or herself, that they're not engaged as much in what they can do because they're thinking too much of what they might not be able to do. So I think that kind of lends itself to a little bit of a management.
Yeah, no doubt. And so that's also why we have varying speeds too with the walkabout. So we have our default speed, but we also have slower and we have faster. And that's for just we all teach different. We all have different pedagogies. You can pause a walkabout at any time. Every time you play it, it's different, right? So you could go back and you get different content. But having that speed change enables the teacher to select a speed that everyone can be accommodative to ensure that those, right, because some people they understand it, but it's taking a longer time to process.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know that physical activity actually increases processing speed, which we know is a really important component of learning. So there are variability in which you are able to choose how you want to play that walkabout, whether it's fast, the traditional way we designed it, or you can slow it down. But that way, it does provide an opportunity for those kids who might be more thinkers, who not necessarily not being, they're able to participate at the same level as someone might necessarily grasp it either faster or just reacts to it quicker. It's not that they are any smarter than the child who needs a little bit more time. It's just we all learn a little bit differently.
So in that case, that's where maybe the stations, or we call them centers, or just even everyone could be doing it at the same time. But I know a lot of schools have given out laptops now, so they can do it with laptops at their desks.
Absolutely, or their Chromebook, right? No doubt,
Right.
you could do it that way,
Yeah.
and that provides that individual ability for each student to be learning at their own pace.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about that physical activity and increased processing speed.
Yeah, so I mean, we know with the executive function hypothesis, right? And you mentioned adults. I mean, this really started in the field of gerontology in the 60s, and it just made its way down through adults and then, to children. And we now have a lot of evidence that physical activity pushes off dementia and can maybe even be able to treat early onset of Alzheimer's. But when we look at cognition, there's really three things, right? We have our general intelligence, which is broken up into fluid intelligence, processing speed, and working memory capacity. All of those correlate highly with executive functions. So if physical activity leads to structural changes in that prefrontal cortex, it's going to improve that fluid intelligence, it's going to improve that working memory, and then it's going to improve that processing speed. And it is important to understand processing is a part of learning, and your ability to process and identify correct versus incorrect is an important part of learning and cognition. And the research is pretty clear that physical activity helps to improve processing speed as well as some of those other constructs I mentioned.
Is there a sweet spot in terms of age when to really start introducing physical activity for the purpose of increasing processing speed?
It's a great question. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I would suspect there's no downside of engaging in physical activity at any age, right? The first thing we do when we're born is we move. So I would think with that, when you go from that sensory motor to that perceptual motor,
Mm-hmm.
and when we go back to our days of Piaget, right? 0 to 2 is that sensory motor, and then it turned into perceptual motor. And that perceptual motor is just the interpretation of sensation. So it happens very early.
I say, as an educator, that this is something that we really want to look into. especially for our students who are somewhat distractible. And listen, after COVID, so many kids had interrupted learning that even if their processing speed was developing right on target and developmentally appropriate, doesn't mean that they can't benefit from engaging the physical activity. However, let's talk about that pink elephant. And sometimes when we have kids move around, let's face it, it can become a behavior management issue. They don't always know the boundaries.
And that is true. I mean, and we do talk, and when we talk to some of our teachers, and they'll have some of those potential concerns. I mean, I think it's reasonable to understand that, yeah, you're getting kids moving. They might be more likely to, if you will, get a little more excited than they would normally just sitting at their desk. But what we have learned from teachers is teachers really early on set set up the what they're expecting. Like, hey, we're gonna have a walkabout, and as we know, this is gonna create movement, but you're gonna be right next to your desk. You're gonna use your own self space. And although it's counterintuitive, we know the research says that movement really is important for self-regulation and does improve academic engagement. I think a lot of time it's just how you present it and ensuring that here, these are the expectations. The way we also play our walkabouts, all of our walkabouts start with a little 30-second jingle. And it's really to remind the kids, hey, you're going to get up, you're going to start moving, and you got this 30 seconds to kind of get your body situated, and then the heart of the lesson will start. Are there times when there are some kids who might be a little too energetic? Sure, but that's like in any situation, regardless if you're using movement or not. It's really setting the expectations. And then oftentimes the kids are so excited to follow our avatars because we've done this all in motion capture 3D. So the graphics are really good. And so they're following our avatars that they're not even thinking about being unresponsive. They're just so excited to be moving as they're learning something.
Absolutely. And I think you were very clear about that, as should educators, if we're going to use a program like this and really use walkabouts, because setting very clear expectations and even allowing the students an opportunity to practice what it is that is expected of them could help to provide that structure that they need in order to learn from such a program.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just making sure everyone's clear. But I mean, we've observed this with 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and they're just really engaged and really enjoy it. And so we have found that yes, there's always an opportunity for enhanced distraction, but I think you can have that with almost any content as long as you're setting the expectations. But our lessons are so engaging. Most of the time, those kids just want to follow Jax or Gia on this adventure.
No, Dr. Reed, we really always love to hear the why within my guests and, how did they get to where they are right now? And it'd be interesting. Sometimes I have guests back and where have they been, right? So can you share with us, how did this all begin? Give us your why.
Yeah, so I was I was a destructive student in the bad way, in the sense I wasn't like a bad kid or anything like that, but I got in
There
trouble
are
all the
no
time.
bad children, there's poor
Exactly.
choices.
That's right. Well, I just needed to move all the time. And I was that way. I'm that way as an adult. I have a treadmill desk, standing desk. And so learn kinesthetically, and I need to learn by doing. And as I went into education, and during not only my, formative years, but even through um, my graduate years and going into classrooms, I see a lot of kids who were moving, but they were almost being punished for moving, and recognizing that we all learn differently, and then taking, although it's anecdotal, my experience of always being told to sit down, that wasn't necessarily the best thing for me, and I was often labeled this hyperactive kid. So I was always been interested in this even before I knew there was any science behind it. But then as I got older and really better understood, hey, what's happening in the brain and how learning is truly multisensory, I started to really delve deeper into this. And then I realized, hey, kids aren't moving as much because ultimately I'm a health scientist. How do we get more movement in school? Well, we can't just ask teachers to get kids moving if it loses instruction time. Well, then you start looking at the research, and movement is one of the oldest forms of teaching. As I mentioned earlier, it's one of the first things we do when we're born. So it really lends itself to learning. And then I just got really excited about, hey, we're going to get kids healthier, but we're also going to improve their cognition. We're going to improve their behavior management. As we talked, prior to, our platform is evidence-based. Researchers at Iowa State University and University of California looked at our platform, and not only did it improve academic performance among kids who got the Walkabouts intervention, it improved their academic engagement after the walkabout, which we know is really important. And this was all evidence compared to control students who didn't get the Walkabouts platform. So, I think I started early on, always really being active, but then I think as I got older, I realized, hey, there are kids like me who need different ways to learn. And then when you start thinking about also childhood obesity, kids not moving as much, this was a great opportunity to not only improve health, but also improve their learning experiences.
Sure, it keeps expanding its wings, right?
Yeah, right. And there's no doubt, exactly that. It keeps expanding and finding different applications.
And I believe I read somewhere that it's approximately after 8 weeks that there's been some change in some data that's.
Yeah, that's what they have found in the study. It was really a short intervention, and as little as 8 weeks, they were able to demonstrate the cognitive performance enhancements, decrease in the hyperactivity, and increase in that academic engagement. So it doesn't take a long time of using our platform, and we're not even suggesting you have to use it every single day. A lot of our teachers use it once or twice a week, and then some do use it every day, but it's giving those kids an opportunity to move as they learn, and they get access at school and they get access at home, but no instruction time is lost. And that is something we really want to let everyone to understand, is it's not just an add-on. You're already teaching these standards. Our system also knows what state you're in. Therefore, it pulls your specific state standards. And therefore, you can show your principal or you can show your supervisor, hey, I'm meeting what I'm supposed to be meeting. I'm doing it with physical activity. And look how fun these kids are having as they move around and learn.
For all 50 states?
All 50 states, different
Wow.
countries. We got walkabouts all over the world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think our listeners need to know about?
No, if you want more information, you can just go to walkabouts.com, and you can reach out to us. There's a contact there. You can go there and get a free trial, 30-day free trial. We want people to use it. We want our kids to be active. And after 30 days, you decide, hey, this is great for my school or my district or my center. We're very affordable. It's less than $1,000 per school building for every
school
kid.
building.
Yeah, for every kid in the school, every teacher in the school, and that's for 12 months. So it's unlimited use, as much as you want for that year, at home and at school and in the summer, because we know sometimes kids need to be remediation is a great opportunity in the summertime as well.
Fantastic. Dr. Reed, thank you very much for sharing your information, for really keeping in mind the way to integrate physical activity along with the many improvements that come along with consistent engagement within the classroom, especially when it comes to physical activity. So thank you for joining us for our Student Success Beyond Expectations podcast. And if you're listening with us right now, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Make it a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Student Success Beyond Expectations podcast, where school leaders, educators, and parents meet on behalf of children who struggle with learning.